Hello, welcome to another episode of Set Musings. So we're up to Conflux. Wow, this is a really interesting block as a whole. I think I've mentioned already, but Monday is the day that I do all my Magic the Gathering related videos, but also I do prep for the next week as well. So of course I've been having a bit of a sneak peek ahead to Lara Reborn, and in looking at that and looking back, yeah, it's just super interesting how the block as a whole meshes together, and what they did within each set that made it different. So one way to look at this, actually, I've noticed, is the keywords and abilities were there was a certain degree of consistency in how much they cropped up across all three sets. Sometimes, when we looked at other blocks, a lot of the keywords and abilities from a previous set, when you get to the next set in the block, they sort of go to the background a little bit. There's less of them. There might be the odd one or two here. And then there's a new set of keywords and abilities that come to the fore. What I noticed with this block is it was pretty consistent across the block. Now, they did introduce new things in each set, but there was like a core set of keywords abilities in the block as a whole that sort of repeated themselves consistently across the block. And apart from the block maybe featuring like a new keyword ability that we hadn't seen before, either in the block so far or Magic as a whole, it was almost as if they were playing around with colours, like the relationship between the monocolored cards and the multicolored cards, and the balance, and of course that ties in with the whole theme of the shards. So it was really interesting to see that theme and how it developed over the block. So let's have a look at Conflux, because that's really what this video is about. And then next week we'll move on to Lara Reborn, and then what I'm going to do is for the following week from Lara Reborn week, I'm going to take a week. I'm going to have a break for a week. It's the sort of week after the week after Easter. So I'm going to have a week where I don't put out a regular video, and then what'll be nice is we'll have a break, and then we'll get into M10, which is sort of around the period when I got back interested in Magic again. So that works really well. One thing I will say, there's obviously a new set in the pipeline, which we're all aware of. So if it turns out that I'm in a position to put out a set musings, because all of the cards from the new set have been spoiled in Scryfall, and in terms of understanding the set, I'm in a good position in terms of what's been posted on MTG Wiki, then yeah, I will, if it turns out it coincides with that down week, if you like, then I will put a video out. But that video will go out in addition to anything else if it coincides with a week when I'm doing videos. So we'll have a special set musings sometime before the end of April for the new set. So Conflux, this was with the symbol, it sort of symbolised the 5 shards joining together. If you get a chance to track down the novels, the books for this, they're well worth a read. I read a couple from this period, and it's an interesting storyline. I think I was actually able to pick them up in my local library. They actually had copies of them. So the set as a whole, 145 cards. There's 60 commons, 40 uncommons, 35 rares, 10 mythic rares in here. and we'll see how they got distributed across various cycles. In terms of the keywords and abilities to look out for, we've got cycling, devour, domain, exalted and unearth. The overarching theme, I suppose you could argue, was the colour relationships of the shards. But in this set, when you scroll through, because you can see there's quite a number of mono-coloured cards, it's interesting to know, and again we'll see in a moment as I go through this, how much the multicolour aspect of the set actually shone through if you were physically opening packs, based on how many multicoloured cards there were and at what rarity. So hopefully we'll get a bit more of a feel for that as we go through and we slice and dice the set. You'll notice that obviously a number of cards also had different colours in their activation cost, which meant the colour identity of the card was multicoloured, even though the casting cost wasn't. Also, we've got interesting cards like Path to Exile in here. And you'll notice there was still the shard keywords were there, or the relationship to the previous set. So we had coloured artifact creatures, we had exalted for Bant, we had devouring Jund, we had Grixis, Unearth, and Naya's Power 5 or Greater theme. And there was these colour hate cards in here as well. So we need to look out for obviously domain, that became an ability word. And we had basic land, cycling. And keep your eye open for, again, protection. Protection from everything. There is a certain key card in here. So, see how things slice and dice. So, the set, so we're clear on this, 145 as a whole. 36 cards were multicolour. 20 cards were multicoloured, where the colour was 2 in the casting cost. I think that's right. Yeah. So here I'm specifically talking about the casting cost being multicoloured, not the colour identity, which is something different. So 36. So there's you could say like there's a subset within there. So of the 36 cards, 20 cards within that 36 were 2-colour multicolour. 11 cards were 3-colour. So we still had the various shards represented. Not always the same amount of cards. You can see, I think, here, so we've got 2, 3, another 2, another 2, and another 2. But there are also 5 colour cards within that multicoloured slice. So Child of Alara, Conflux, Fusion Elemental, Maelstrom Archangel, and Progenitus. 2 of those were legendaries, and here's the one with protection from everything. These had pretty powerful effects on them. This one is just regular Wooburg, one of each colour, for 6/6 with trample, and when is put into a graveyard from play. Destroy all non-land permanents. They can't be regenerated. Progenitors, look at that eye-watering casting cost there, just a combination of stuff. So basically 2 of each colour. So it's 10 to cast, 2 white, 2 blue, 2 black, 2 red, 2 green for a 10/10. Has protection from everything. And if it would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, shuffle progenitors and shuffle into, reveal, what do I say shuffle for? Reveal progenitors and shuffle it into its owner's library instead. Interesting, I suppose you could say, in self-mill, to avoid you completely depleting your library. And other, certain, I'm sure you can abuse this in various ways in a number of different combo decks. This is interesting as well. We've got a vanilla 5 CMC Wooburg 8/8 there in the form of Fusion Elemental. So I mentioned about cycling. So in amongst the cycling cards, you'll notice there is basic land cycling. We'll probably come back to this in a moment. So 2 with regular cycling and 5 with basic land cycling. There's Devour. 3 cards with Devour. 10 cards with Domain. So, just so we're clear on this, obviously, well, I'm assuming everybody watching this video is aware of cycling, but just in case, just to clarify here what it means in the context of basic land cycling. So with cycling, there's a cycling and then a cost. So you pay the cost, you discard the card and you draw a card. With basic land cycling, you discard the card, you search your library for a basic land card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. And you can see for all the cards there are always 1 and the colour of the card to do that. The cycling cards were 2 of any colour. With Devour, again, we've seen this before, but just in case you just happen to watch this video without watching any of the previous ones, Devour 1, as this comes into play, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This creature comes into play with that many +1/+1 counters on it. And so the Devour number multiplies up this +1/+1 effect. There aren't any there beyond 1. Domain was the new one, or the one that had been keyworded. So with Domain, although what it's looking at is slightly different in terms of certain aspect of its, say what it's looking at, what its effect is different on different cards. What it checks for, there is a common denominator, and you can see it's the number of basic land types among lands you control. That's the common denominator here across Domain. So it's all about basic land types among lands you control. So what's happening here is, obviously, if you want to play Domain, the more different types of basic lands you play, the more colours of basic lands you play, the better the effect. But of course there is a downside with playing say 5 colours, or several colours, in terms of how you fix for that mana. But this rewards you for playing multiple basic land types. But you can see there's a number of different effects that are leveraged off of that basic land type count. So this is Avon Trailblazers Toughness, top X cards of your library, and basically drawing cards based on domain. -1/-1, discard +1/+0. So it's interesting to see domain works interestingly with the sort of effects you see commonly in the colour of the particular spell or creature, or non-creature spell or creature or whatever else that it's stapled to. Power and toughness, +1/+1, tokens. Interesting, this is on one multicolored card, a red-green one. So we're in red-green, so it's interesting, we've got basic land, tutoring, and then direct damage. So yeah, good combination for red and green. And then the Mana Force Mace one, quick creature gets +1/+1 for each basic land type among lands you control. The other thing that's obviously going to restrict you anyway is the casting cost, because of course oh no, sorry, I'll dial that back. I misread that, so I'm thinking of another ability that does do that. With this, it doesn't matter what mana you spend to cast it. It's purely checking to see how many basic land types you have among lands you control. Yeah, so I'm getting confused here. There are other effects, other abilities in Magic that do check the casting cost, but this one's checking just to see how many basic land types among lands you control. We've got Exalted. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end turn. So 5 Exalted cards. So white, blue, green, and green, white, blue. Obviously, what you'll see again is it moving colour-wise towards whatever that particular keyword ability was associated with the particular shard. Then we have Unearth. So blue, black, red here. Return this card from your graveyard to play. It gains haste, remove it from the game at the end of your turn, or if it would leave play, Unearth only as a sorcery. So we've seen that in the previous set. Land cycling. Now, did I? No. There we go. So they're all of those. So I just wanted to double check. So the new one was domain. There we go. So cycle of land cyclers. Common instants and sorceries that have one effect that is relatively overcosted, and basic land are cycling for 1 on the particular colour. So you've got a counter spell here for 3 and 2 blue. You've got a pump spell to end of turn for 4 and a white. You have life exchange for 6 and a black, and damage for 5 and a red, 5 damage, and then the green one, life gain for 5 and a green. But you can cycle these. So cycle of creatures with shard coloured activated abilities. So white, green, blue, blue, white, black, black, blue, red, red, black, green, and then finally green, red, white. They're all uncommon. And the cost is both of the allied coloured mana from the shard. Enemy coloured hoses. So I mentioned before there's colour hosing, colour hate in here. Celestial Purge, remove a target black or red permanent from the game. The blue one enchants red or green creatures. The black one enchants forest or plains. The red one, 3 damage divided amongst number of target white or blue creatures. And the green one, destroy artifact or enchantment. But if that permanent was blue or black, draw a card. So in some way, it's either conditional on or leverages extra things as a result of hating on enemy colours. So they're all uncommon, they're all non-creature spells, and they hamper both of their enemy colours for a relatively low mana cost at the time. Again, with a lot of these, you have to obviously get it in context. So now we move on to the multicolored cards in terms of cycles. So we've got some common allied coloured spells. And you can see they all include 2 allied coloured mana. White, blue, blue, black, black, red, red, green, green, white. Then here's a cycle of uncommon allied coloured spells. White, blue, blue, black, black, red, red, green, and green, white. And as a consequence, what you tend to see with whatever they do, you know, if it's an ability that's stapled onto a creature, or if it's a sorcery or enchantment or instant or whatever, you might tend to see a combination of the sort of effects that you would see in those colours, but combined in some way. Not always. And sometimes there's obviously overlap, like the white-blue one, where you see flying in both white and blue. But you can see here, this is interesting, we get this -2, -0 effect and unblockable. When you move on to the uncommon ones, which we just looked at. And again, you can see, if you look at these, some of these also, the particular shard ability is there as well. So we've got Unearth on this one, Devour on this one, and greater than, oh sorry, power 5 or greater. So Counterswall is the blue-black one. You can see we've got a combination of countering and life loss on the same spell. Cycle of Outlanders. Common 2/2 allied colours scout creatures, and they each have protection from their enemy colour. So my understanding is thematically this was the coming together of the various shards, and those shards, those worlds, becoming aware of one another in the storyline. And we've got, moving on to 3 colours, we've got a cycle of uncommon shard coloured spells. And here you can see they've obviously got the colours in the casting cost of a particular shard. Beyond that, there's no similar templating for other aspects of the card, I don't think, here. You can see there's different card types, different effects, but the cycle is purely on the 3 colour shard combination. Another 3 coloured cycle. These were rare. Again, they just include the colour combination from the shard. They are all the other commonality is they're all creatures. Got a sphinx, a vampire, worm, a beast, and a human soldier. I've not looked to see if there's any creature distribution. attributed to certain colour combinations. I don't know if there is, beyond what you'd normally associate with different tribes. What we'll also see in here is a few of these mini cycles. So, and they were tied more to certain shards. And I think we've seen so far there was a bit of an imbalance in terms of, wasn't there more sort of Esper mini cycles, I think, if my memory serves me correctly from the first set. Anyway, there was definitely a bias in the way shards were represented in these mini cycles, or that's the way it appears. So this one is Esper Artifact Enhanced Creatures. So common artifact creatures, they get better the more artifacts you play. Then we had this mini cycle of scepters in Esper colours. Dominance, Insight and Fugue. Apparently they're all rare, and they're actually a colour version of an artifact from Alpha. This one taps down, this one draws cards, and this one does discard. Be interesting when we get to the breakdown of EDH Rec and how they appear in there, where these appear. That would be good to see in terms of popularity. This was an interesting mini cycle. So these were uncommon 2/2 creatures that have a mana cost of 2 and then a specific colour. And they had a bonus on them that you could gain by basically playing Wooburg. So white, blue, black, red, green. And again, so it looks like, yeah, they're all getting some sort of pump and then an additional ability that you might associate with that colour. So if you look at the white one, you've got Flying and Lifelink. Then you have the black one is in addition to the pump, we've got Fear, and then the target creature gain -2/-2, and then with the red one again, you've got the pump. Interesting, this becomes a dragon as well, and the first one becomes an angel. Gets 5 +5/+3 and gains Flying and Trample. So that's an interesting twist in the set. Again, I suppose a sort of nod towards 5 colour. So I mentioned a mega cycle in the previous set. So what you have here is all of the other parts. So the Bant, the Esper, the Jundun, the Naya were all planeswalkers in Shards of Alara. The fifth one that wasn't there, the missing planeswalker that was associated with the particular shard, although they didn't have the shard colours that were associated with it. But in the case of Nicol Bolas, which is the missing one, if you like, the one that turns up in Conflux, it did have Grixis colours in there. I just wanted to go back to this, actually. I'm just checking to see. This is interesting in the colour combination doesn't map to... Does that... It's alright. That doesn't map to a... Does that map to a shard? That maps to a wedge. Yeah. So it's mapping to a wedge. I was curious about that, actually. Okay, anyway, let's jump back there. Okay, so while we're on the subject of planeswalkers, planeswalkers being of the type legendary, let's have a look and see what's in the set in terms of legendaries. So we're going to look at some types now. So we've got Rakamar, Guafa, Hazid, Profiteer, Malfagor, Child of Alara and Progenitus. All very interesting cards for different reasons here. This one's interesting. It spits out 3/1 red elemental tokens with haste. Yeah. We'll be coming back to this fella at some point. There's our one planeswalker in the set. In terms of land, particularly non-basic lands, so you can see here it's not a cycle, but these are all the non-basic lands in the set. Interesting cards. A number of these, you know, we'll recognise. We've got Reliquary Tower. You have no maximum hand size. Tap, add 1 to your mana pool. This, I mean, if you look at the sort of things that seem to crop up a lot in Commander products, you know, either cards or functional reprints. You've got things like Rupture Spire, Exotic Orchard. Unstable Frontier is an interesting card. I'm not sure. I see that's never been printed in a Commander product. Target land you control becomes basic land type of your choice until end of turn. Rupture Spire, you can see there. Quite a few reprints. Reliquary Tower, how many times have they reprinted that in Commander? A few times now. Seems to have brought the price down somewhat. Exotic Orchard, yeah, numerous occasions. Add 1 mana to your mana pool. Add to your mana pool 1 mana of any colour that a land an opponent controls would produce. An Ancient Zagara. I do like this. In, you know, creature decks, heavy creature decks, tribal decks, add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to play creature spells. Hasn't cropped up in any Commander product. There's obviously other cards that work just as well, but I just really love the theme of this. That's the thing, and the artwork. It did crop up in that premium deck, you know, the Slivers one. Because that was 5 colour, so 5 colour tribal, but yeah, not reprinted a ton. It's been in the mystery booster. But that card makes me smile. Okay, 88 creatures across various colour combinations. And, you know, like, this is a great set for just spending some time wandering through and looking for creatures with, you know, multiple colour or colour identity, just to see, you know, interesting utility. There's a lot of interesting utility on a number of these cards, and it's a good. I find this set as well is a good starting point for certain tribal decks as well. Or there's a certain good place for utility in certain tribal decks like beasts, because of the, you know, the large was it 5 or more caring about tie to the particular shard that we had in the set. So, just 3 auras: Mark of Asylum, Sigil of the Empty Throne, and Suicidal Charge. This is interesting. It was in a Commander 2015, and it was in Plane Chase as well. For all non-combat damage that would be dealt to creatures you control. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Here's our regular enchantments. Sorry, I always get there in the wrong way, don't I? What I meant to say is, here's our regular enchantments. I keep looking up here and not seeing the minus. These are our regular enchantments, and these are our auras. So 3 regulars, 6 auras. Creature, conditional creature, conditional landed enchants. That one does a creature. So yeah, nice bit of variability there for suiting up your creatures. Okay, regular artifacts. Now, lots of interesting colour fixing shenanigans on here. So I won't say lots, but I mean, I suppose we've got here this and this one, the two, the ones that probably I think people are most familiar with. This is there's been lots of variations on this, or several variations on this particular type of card. Interesting, this came up in Plane Shift. Nice artwork. Nice artwork. But you're probably used to seeing cards with a variation of this. Sometimes it's identical. It's like functional reprint. Other times there might be some messing around with the CMC. And an Armory Sphere, 2 to cast, 2 tap, sack it, and then search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, and shuffle your library. It's cropped up numerous times in multiplayer decks. But then we've also got Kaleidostone. So you get card draw for it, but then you can pay 5, tap it, and it acts like a filter for Wooburg. So you can pay 5 combination of any 5 colours, and then it filters them into Wooburg. Tap down, -1, -0, card draw. We've seen the scepters already, obviously. And this Obelisk of Alara, this sort of 5 colour utility thing as well, is interesting. Life gain, card draw, and then discard, -2, -2, 3 damage, and then +4/+4. It always interests me with these like multi-repeatable effects as utility. If you're aware of Chromat, you see it on Chromat, but also there's other cards as well throughout Magic's history, particularly artifacts, which have this interesting combination of utility on them. Just 2 pieces of equipment: Bone Saw and Manifold's Mace. This one is a common. This one, uncommon, has Domain on it. "16 artifact creatures," and you probably have already spotted these as we've been going through the set. And they're across both monocolour with a different colour as the activated ability, 2 colour casting cost, and 3 colour. So lots of interesting variations there. Here's our instance. What do we get in our instance spots? Oh, Path to Exile, of course. Uncommon. How much is this now? 447. Okay. It's been reprinted a number of times now and was also in the Commander products. Interesting tempo counter spell, so it's putting it on top of its owner's library in white. +1/+2 counter spell, very highly costed, as I pointed out earlier. We've got land cycling on it. Unsummons in here as well. That's been reprinted quite a few times. Originally from, when did it first crop up? Oh, way back. Yeah. Way back. This affects another thing you see in blue. Gaining flying at instant speed. Card draw. -1/-1. Here's our 2 damage spell, but only additional 1 if you control a black permanent. There's our 5 damage one, very highly costed as well. 3 damage, spread out. Artifact destruction. 2 damage that can't be countered. So there's a number of different damage spells in red. Artifact destruction and enchantment destruction in green. At instant speed. Pump, life gain, counter and life loss. And then sorcery speed. I'm not sure if there's any like mass removal here. Got tokens. Sort of strange mill thing going on here. Like a conditional mill. And you put the creature that is found under your control. So yeah, some interesting combinations. There's another domain card. Discard. Conditional destruction. So always interesting to see our X red sorceries that might be in the set. We've got Banefire. 3 damage. Sorcery speed with various other conditions on it. There's our green land tutoring. Search your library for a plains card, island, swamp and a mountain card. Reveal those cards. Put them into your library and then shuffle your library. Shard convergence. Soul's Majesty. Spore burst. It's interesting card draw there in green. Exploding borders and then Conflux. And this is cool as well, so this can be any card. So you can use that for a number of different things. And then back to the set as a whole. So yeah. Again, fascinating to see the various themes in the block as a whole shine through. There's some pretty powerful creatures in here in terms of power and toughness that have interesting abilities stapled to them. I'm always curious as to what horrors you see crop up in a set as well. They always have some interesting abilities on them a lot of the time. Oh, there's an ooze. There's Hellspark's elementals in here. Paleoth. Soul's Majesty. And there's numerous other ways I could slice it up if we really start to try and look for other things that have bridged over from the previous set, but often I just have to sort of call a halt to all the different possible combinations that you could go look for, and really just keep it to the sort of a core group of things. But the good thing with this is everything I'm using here is available, so you can hop onto Scryfall, just put in set:con and do your own slicing and dicing. It's a great way of whiling away hours. So price. I like to go into really full here. So yeah, most expensive card at this point in time, Child of Alara, $24, 32. It did crop up in the From the Vault Annihilation. I think I might have this from the vault. I'm not sure. It was actually cheaper in that, which is funny. Noble Hierarch was in the set, of course. So taps for green, white, blue. It's been reprinted a number of times. $17 original version in Conflux. There's a few more expensive versions, I'm assuming because of the special artwork. We got a box topper here. That's nice in the old border. Old Progenitus. So $8 from Conflux. It was in Legends from the Vault. Interesting artwork. I do like the original artwork though. And yeah, we're already well below the $10 threshold already. So there's only two cards in the set that were currently above $10. It's original printing. And then if you look down beyond that, we've got things like Nicol Bolas. I'm just going to scroll down because it's interesting to see for the cheaper cards, how many times this set stuff's been reprinted. Path to Exile. I'm assuming that would be a lot more expensive had it not been reprinted. Soul's Majesty cropped up in a couple of Commander products. Ancient Ziggurat, as I said, mainly I know it from this. Reliquary Tower. It's been reprinted a few times now. That was in the Arch Enemy product. Cool. So, speaking of multiplayer, so I don't think there's any surprise here, being as what we've seen already. So, sort of cards that commonly crop up in the decks that are on EDH Rec: Exotic Orchard, Reliquary Tower, Path to Exile, Noble Hierarch, Sigil of the Empty Throne. I was curious about that. Martial Coup, Armory Sphere, Rupture Spire, Council, Font of Mythos, Master Transmuter. We've seen this as a number of, because of the sort of caring about artifacts theme, a lot of probably blue artifact themed decks. And there's a number of cards from the block that end up in that. Inkwell Leviathan, that's another one I thought that probably would turn up. And we're looking down here. Neither Reliquary. Oh, our friend here. So, before I just give a sneak peek to where I'm going in the Commander Fodder episode, we'll have a quick look at the intro packs. Remember with these, again, I pointed out last week, we're down to these weird 41 card decks with a booster. So the 41st card is a foil of one of the two rares. So Bant on the Mind, these are going to be three colours, 3 colour decks, and they're built around the shards still. So there's 5 of them to be able to do that for each one, to feature each one. Bant on the March, Gilt Spire Avenger was the foil. It's got Guafa Hazard Profiteer in it. Esperer Assault, foils Magister Sphinx with Inkvel Leviathan as the other non-foil rare. Blood Tyrant was the foil. Extractor Demon was the non-foil rare. And for the Jund one, we've got Charnel Horde Worm and Voracious Dragon. It's in foil. And then Naya is Pelioloth and Megalanoth. And if we just scroll back up here, so you'll see here like basically how they were trying to fix the colour combinations. So we're on the second set, so obviously they can bring in stuff from the first set to help out in terms of the colour fixing. What's this? A quick force of heroic soldiers, Roxys and the Flying Avon. The noble realm of Bant. Esper. Yeah, flying creatures. Again, you can see how they're fixing the mana here. Benefiting from the previous non-basic lands that are in the previous set. Grixis, Shambling Army, Undead Minions, Jund, Appetite for War, Goblin's Dragon and other voracious creatures from Jund. And then the Naya one, yeah. Now this is a very slight variation here. We don't have the tricolour one from the from Shards of Alara. I'm assuming so Forest Islands, Mountain, Plains and Swamps. So it's actually a 5-colour, yeah, so it's a 5-colour domain deck centred on Naya. So they've brought in the 2 other colours. And as a consequence, they've increased the number of terramorphic expanses. Now, what I was curious about is to whether have they got any? Yeah, so that's no surprise how they're trying to fix for that. Okay, so we've got Rampant Growth and Shard Convergence. I wonder if they've got any mana generating creatures here. I can see in the top corner what they do have actually. They do have a Kaleidostone. So, well, once you max out with your domain and land search spells and artifacts, you'll crush your foes with the most diverse arsenal of spells available. Fair enough. Right, so bit of a preview for the Commander Daddle episode. So in the pool that I did, so 12 boosters using MT Gen, 180 pool of 180 cards. I got a pool which had a legendary in it. The legendary was Guafa Hazard Profiteer. There was also a Malfagor, but I thought I'd give this a go. It's not a card I'm super familiar with, so I just wanted to see where the algorithm took us. Obviously I need to strip out stuff that's off colour from the pool, and I'll do that in the episode, so we can just talk a little bit about, gives us another opportunity to talk about some of the cards from the set while I'm doing that. So yeah, looks like we're playing white-blue. And again, of course, if you remember what would have happened with the booster packs, although there were no basic lands for this set, the basic lands were pulled from shards. They had in one slot a basic land from shards in the slot. It's actually interesting when you open this many booster packs. It's good because we've got a number of non-basic lands which are going to be useful for various reasons. So yeah. there we have it. And then I'm going to keep up. It's proved really popular. I've got a few people commenting on how much they enjoy the artwork episode. So Friday's episode will be another artwork episode. Obviously, we're going to look at the artwork in Conflux, and then when we do the Alara Be Reborn episodes, I do the same thing. I'm going to look at the artwork for that, and obviously it's just basic cards that I've pulled. Primarily obviously from the set, but also if there's any reprints where the artwork it's the same artwork that's in the set, I'll dig out there if there's anything interesting as well. So yeah, I always look forward to that Friday video, and I know a number of people that watch the channel really like the ability to focus in on the artwork and see actually what's going on in the background, which you don't always see. So thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.